Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today we'll go over the market, talk about what has happened and what we can expect moving forward. So Tesla, the market's closing in about 8 minutes, but Tesla pretty much going to be most likely ending around this $238, pretty much putting us at just over 8% under. Obviously in the red. So let's talk about it, what we can expect, etc, etc, etc. So like I said, I'm expecting a bounce from this general area. So far, so good. Well, at least from this like 233 area. And I did say how I wouldn't be too surprised if we potentially come down to this level down here at 233 once again and maybe do a double bottom. Now, I want to preface this extremely clearly. Anything I say, especially if I'm talking about things that can, say that, we're going to bounce, whatever, could be completely wrong. I just want to make that extremely clear, right? Obviously, nobody knows for sure what's going to happen next. It's all just an educated guess. Could be completely incorrect. We can completely crash from here even further. I just want to make that very, very clear. That is still technically a possibility. Of course, nothing is guaranteed. The sooner you learn that, the better. And none of this is financial advice. Of course, make your own decisions. But what I do see happening is I personally think Tesla is actually starting to look a little bit bullish. Now, hopefully Tesla kind of gets a little bit of a rally in the last 5 minutes, because ideally what we want to see is we want to see this candle pretty much close as close to possible to the opening, because that would also be another sign of a potential reversal, which will be a good sign as well. So Tesla can close at 239 instead of this 238 level. If we can go up one extra point, essentially, that'll be fantastic. I would really like to see that. I don't know if we will though. However, what we are seeing currently on this 15-minute chart, as you can see down over here, is we are setting up this potential little wedge, if you will, that we are in. So you can either look at it like this, or you can go on the 1 hour and take a look at it as something like this instead, where it's either a wedge or it's an ascending kind of triangle. This pattern right here, however, on the 1 hour makes a lot more sense to me personally, and is also a bullish pattern. The reason it's a bullish pattern is because, as you can see, we keep getting rejected at the more or less the same level, but we are still making lower or higher lows, which is a good sign. So as long as we don't fall underneath this line right here, which is essentially around, like, honestly, pretty close to where we are right now, maybe like 237 to be safe, if you will, to make it easier. As long as we don't fall below that and we continue making higher, ultimately what this pattern usually plays out is we eventually break past this little resistance point up here, which you can see is clearly around this kind of, very low 240s area, and we smash above it and we continue rallying upwards, essentially from here, or not continue, but start, I guess. Reversing and rallying upwards. That is definitely a possibility. I want to make that very clear, which is not too bad. And if Tesla in the last few minutes ends up closing really close to 239, that's also a very bullish thing to see as well. So we'll see how that forms and we'll see how that develops. But other than that, there's not a whole lot more to say that I haven't said yesterday, because today for the most part has been essentially a sideways day, relative to yesterday's price action. We did fall a bit lower, which isn't ideal. The fact that we are trading lower than yesterday's close, I will admit, isn't like the best thing in the world. You definitely wanted to see a little bit more strength, but we are still technically trading within yesterday's overall trading range, which isn't that bad ultimately. Still, the daily is still looking pretty okay. We are, of course, the candle being lower overall today, most likely, of course, closing lower than yesterday. However, the candle on the daily is starting to show some signs of strength, which is a good sign as well for that. So I do like to see that. So ultimately, it does look like Tesla is trying really, really hard to kind of, consolidate here to find a base around this general area that we are at right now, in this like 230 range, if you will. And, it looks like it wants to consolidate, find the base, and then start making its way upwards potentially. So like I mentioned, the targets yesterday, right? Ultimately, potentially going up even as high as, maybe 270. That's the highest point in my opinion, but it can be anywhere in between. Again, assuming yesterday's swing low is, the low, which at the moment it's so far holding true, which is good, right? We have, of course, these levels over here being the 254, 61, and about pretty much almost 270 are the main levels I would be personally paying attention to if we can break above this. And the first sign that you want to see in order to really determine that, yeah, maybe we will actually get a rally, maybe this is going to be the bounce that we're waiting for, hopefully, fingers crossed. Pretty much what you want to see is you want to see this level right here that we've constantly been getting rejected at. You want to see this broken. You do want to see this level getting broke, and that's a great sign. I also really like the way it's consolidating here a lot more than all these areas over here, because over here these were just setting up very obvious bear flags. These just were extremely obvious bear flags. Even this one here, but the way this one's consolidating is that it's going kind of like sideways as opposed to that upwards slope, if you will, which is what a bear flag usually does, right? This is the perfect example where we fell down, create this upward slope, and then fall down further. Textbook bear flag. I personally actually really like to see something like this. This was pretty close to it, in all honesty. Just unfortunate what happened with the whole, Twitter stuff and whatever. But nonetheless, this right here is, a decent way to consolidate. So I personally don't mind this whatsoever. I still personally don't think it's impossible for us to come down to this level of 233 once again, potentially double bottom and then bounce from there. That is a possibility. And I personally think the realistic, worst case scenario here, if we were to somehow still fall even further before we finally get some relief, would pretty much be down to this 220s level, somewhere in the 220 range, which again also is not impossible. I personally don't think that'll happen, but it's definitely a possibility still, and it can absolutely still happen. It's just I personally don't think it will. But again, I could be completely wrong. I'm not some oracle over here, even though we've been pretty accurate recently overall in calling Tesla's moves for the past even couple of weeks now. At some point I will be completely wrong. I do want to make that very clear. I know people are like, oh wow, you're so correct pretty often, whatever. Great, that's fantastic, but like I will get things wrong. That is just, it is going to happen, just a matter of when, not if, right? That is going to happen, period. The market will always find a way. So that is it for this video, guys. The market's closing in about 2 minutes. It doesn't look like Tesla's getting too bullish of a close here. Unfortunately, we can't get up to that 239 level, so we are going to be closing about 1% down. It's fine as long as this level holds, and as long as we don't fall below it. That's great. If we do, then I expect at the very least to come down to at least to this 233 level one more time, if not potentially go lower, which would be a shame. Of course, I definitely don't want to see it go even lower, considering how far we've already fallen in a very short amount of time. But again, if we were to fall lower before a relief bounce, guys, the next level would be this 228, followed by this potential pretty much like 222-ish level being this red line. But pretty much the 220s should be a massive support if we somehow still have to make our way down there before our actual relief. So that's essentially what I'm seeing, ladies and gentlemen. I do think that either this is the bottom here that we're at now and the relief is pretty much literally around the corner, like maybe even as early as tomorrow, or just a tiny bit more downwards to go, which from here, just out of curiosity, would be another potential 4% to even potential 7%, which is actually a decent amount, to be completely honest. But again, I personally don't think it'll happen. But again, we'll see. Of course, we'll assess it as it goes. But overall in the time frames, the stock itself is not looking atrociously bad. Like, it's not looking fantastic, but the fact that we came lower down to here compared to here, we're starting to show some signs on the RSI of bullish divergences starting to form on all these time frames over here, right? As the stock came lower, we went higher. Now this did happen up here as well. I want to keep that in mind. This did kind of happen up here, though it did kind of fall apart. I did mention that. This is looking a little bit more promising, which is a good sign. So we'll see if this actually comes to fruition. But ultimately, guys, I do think the relief rally for Tesla should, in theory, be around the corner. Should even be here, maybe even as early as tomorrow. But again, play it as it comes, guys. Play it as it comes, right? If we fall below this, when we come down to this level, if we break this level over here, this 233 level, then we're going to go to the next one, being this 228. If that breaks, 222. And of course, if we can break above this 240 level and start holding and closing like 1 hour candles in the 240 range, that'll be a great sign, right? If we can come above this area. And the first level to look at will be this gap fill, in my opinion, before we get a small little dip off of it and then potentially make our way higher. But if we can clear this 240s level and pretty much make our way to like 245 and higher, I think that should be a decent sign that, I think the relief rally is potentially starting. So that is essentially what I am seeing. Let me know what you guys think down below. The market has closed. Unfortunately, not the most bullish close I wanted to see. I personally would have loved to see Tesla come up to 239. Would have been a great candle as well, but we didn't get that. That's fine. Sometimes it'd be like that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.